Now, Caitlin Clark looked good, bro. Caitlin Clark definitely looked good during her warm-ups. It's just good to see her in form playing basketball again. And shout out to Chloe Peterson for flying down there to Puerto Rico to get this content. Now, Team USA has been releasing videos, man. It's Angel Reese. And
as the March 10th deadline draws closer, the tension surrounding the future of the WNBA continues to grow. What once seemed like routine contract negotiations has now evolved into a moment that could shape the league's direction for years to come. Behind closed doors, representatives from the league and the players' union are working through complex issues that extend far beyond simple salary discussions. These talks involve revenue sharing, travel standards, marketing rights, roster benefits, and the broader structure that defines how the league operates. For the players, this negotiation represents something bigger than just the upcoming season. Over the past few years, women's basketball has experienced a surge in visibility and popularity that many insiders once believed would take decades to achieve. Television ratings have climbed, arenas are filling with more fans, and digital engagement across social media platforms continues to grow at a remarkable pace. Much of that momentum has been driven by a new generation of stars who have captured the public's imagination. Among them, Caitlin Clark stands as one of the most influential figures in the sport's modern era. Her arrival in professional basketball helped attract millions of new viewers who had previously never followed the league closely. Game broadcasts featuring Clark frequently generated record-breaking audiences, and her presence alone often transformed regular season matchups into must-watch events. Because of this impact, many players believe the league's financial growth should now translate into improved contracts and stronger long-term protections. League ownership, however, must balance those demands with the financial realities of operating professional franchises. While the league has grown rapidly, it is still navigating the challenges of expansion, media deals, and long-term sustainability. Owners want to ensure that any new agreement keeps the league stable while continuing its upward trajectory. This delicate balancing act explains why negotiations can become so complicated. What makes the current situation particularly unusual is the continued silence surrounding the talks. The media blackout that has been maintained throughout these discussions means fans are left piecing together clues from scattered reports rather than receiving clear updates. In past labor disputes across professional sports, public debates often erupted as soon as negotiations stalled. This time, both sides appear determined to keep the details private until something definitive emerges. That secrecy has created an atmosphere of suspense. Meanwhile, players participating in international events and off-season training sessions are carrying on as if the season will begin as scheduled. Cameras capture them practicing, preparing, and staying in peak condition, even as uncertainty lingers in the background. For many athletes, the only thing they can control is their readiness when the moment finally arrives. If an agreement is reached before the deadline, the league could move forward quickly with its normal schedule. Training camps would open, the draft would proceed, and the excitement built during the previous season would carry directly into the next chapter of women's basketball. But if the negotiations fail to produce a deal in time, the consequences could ripple across the entire sport. Delays would disrupt off-season planning, postpone the start of the season, and potentially affect the momentum the league has worked so hard to build. For now, fans are left watching practice footage, analyzing small updates, and waiting for a breakthrough. The next few days may determine whether the league continues its historic rise or faces its most uncertain moment yet.
We do have some updates coming out about the current CBA negotiation. None other than Alexa Philippou with ESPN sat down and gave us a brief update about the situation. Now, I reported earlier a video before this one how WNBA owners is pretty much trying to stonewall this whole thing. They're not letting any proposal information out to the media. I believe they're doing this to try to get these ladies to sign. They don't want any hype surrounding what the offer is. Like, almost feel like an NDA situation.
Take a close look at the way she's moving. Notice the body language, the smooth rhythm of her footwork, and the confidence in every motion. After spending months away from true competitive basketball, Caitlin Clark is finally back on the court, this time in Puerto Rico as she prepares to represent USA basketball. And from the very first moments captured on camera, one thing becomes obvious: she looks ready. The fluidity in her movements suggests that the long break hasn't dulled her instincts at all. Her passes are sharp, her shooting form appears as polished as ever, and there's a calm confidence in the way she navigates the floor during warm-ups. For fans who have been waiting months to see her back in a competitive environment, these practice sessions feel like a preview of something much bigger. But what makes this moment particularly fascinating is the strange contrast surrounding it. While Clark is preparing for international competition and sharpening her game alongside Team USA teammates, the entire future of the WNBA season hangs in a delicate balance. Right now, the league is approaching a critical deadline, March 10th, a date that could determine whether the 2026 season proceeds as planned or enters an entirely uncertain phase. That looming deadline has cast a shadow over everything happening in women's professional basketball. Training camps are supposed to begin in a matter of weeks. Teams are preparing their rosters. Fans are anticipating another year of growth for the league following a historic 2025 season. Yet behind the scenes, negotiations between league officials and the players' union remain unresolved. Even more unusual is the silence. Normally, when negotiations of this magnitude take place, pieces of information begin leaking out almost immediately. Reporters hear whispers from sources inside the room. Analysts discuss rumored proposals and possible compromises. But this time, the situation feels different. Both sides have been remarkably quiet. That silence has created a sense of tension across the basketball world. Supporters are watching practice footage of Clark preparing for international play while simultaneously wondering whether the league she stars in will actually begin its next season on time. It's a strange dual reality. On one side, the sport's brightest stars are stepping back onto the court, showing fans glimpses of the excitement that made last season so successful. On the other side, negotiations behind closed doors are quietly shaping the future of the league itself. And until more information emerges, that uncertainty continues to hover over everything.
Over this story, where do things stand right now between the WNBA and the Players Union?
Yeah, Mina, well, the WNBA sent a counter proposal to the Players Union on Saturday. That was a day after the Players Union sent a counter proposal itself to the league on Friday. So you had that back and forth, but right now the ball is technically in the players' court. It's been described to me that those proposals contained some movement, indicating a little bit of progress, but I think it's notable that we actually haven't had leaks from either side so far about the contents of that proposal, perhaps indicating that both sides actually see and understand the seriousness of what this
One of the most striking developments surrounding these negotiations is the communication strategy being used by league ownership. According to multiple reports, the owners within the WNBA have implemented what can only be described as a complete media blackout regarding the ongoing collective bargaining discussions. In practical terms, that means almost no information is escaping from the negotiation room. Reporters who typically rely on inside sources to piece together updates have found themselves facing an unusual wall of silence. There have been no detailed leaks outlining proposals, no anonymous quotes describing the tone of meetings, and no public hints about how close the two sides might be to reaching an agreement. For observers who follow labor negotiations in professional sports, this approach stands out immediately. Usually, during high-stakes bargaining sessions, bits of information start circulating quickly. Media outlets publish early reports about salary proposals, revenue-sharing models, and potential compromises being discussed behind the scenes. Those leaks often shape public perception of the negotiations and sometimes even influence the pressure placed on either side. But this time, that pattern hasn't appeared. Instead, the league's ownership group appears to be deliberately controlling the flow of information, or more accurately, preventing that flow entirely. Some analysts believe this strategy is designed to limit the players' ability to shape the public narrative. If details about proposals remain hidden, it becomes harder for either side to rally public support based on selective information. Others interpret the silence differently. They suggest that maintaining secrecy could simply be an attempt to keep the negotiations focused and professional, avoiding the chaos that often emerges when every detail becomes a headline. What makes this situation even more interesting is how different it is from the approach used during the most recent negotiations in the NBA. During that process, reports about potential agreements and disagreements surfaced almost immediately. Journalists were able to follow the progress of the talks almost in real time as new details emerged day after day. The contrast between the two approaches is striking. Where the NBA negotiations unfolded in full public view, the WNBA discussions are taking place almost entirely behind closed doors. And that silence has led many observers to draw one unavoidable conclusion: the distance between the two sides may be larger than anyone wants to admit publicly.
It's just something about this year. It seems like Angel Reese is really starting to mature a lot. She's really starting to mature a lot. She has not been very vocal online like that. Seems like she is possibly being more focused toward basketball. She ain't doing a lot of little antics she was doing, man. And I commend her for that. I really do.
God, I'm just grateful to be in the presence of an angel.
I'm with the wait, guys, I'm with the Puerto Rican princess, and we are going to Puerto Rico. Do your dance, mommy. Yes, mommy.
One of the few detailed insights into the negotiations came from reporting by Alexa Filippo, a journalist who closely covers women's basketball for ESPN. Her breakdown of the latest developments provided the clearest timeline yet for how discussions have been progressing over the past few days. According to a report, the negotiation process recently entered another round of proposal exchanges. The Players' Union submitted its latest offer to league officials on Friday. Then, just one day later, on Saturday, the league responded with a counterproposal of its own. On the surface, that kind of rapid back and forth might seem encouraging. Frequent exchanges often indicate that both sides are actively engaged in trying to find common ground. In many negotiations, progress occurs through exactly this type of iterative process. One side proposes changes, the other responds, and gradually the differences begin to narrow. However, the language used in Filippo's reporting revealed a more complicated reality. She described the latest proposals as containing some movement and a little bit of progress. Those words are important. They suggest that while the conversation is continuing, the changes being made are relatively small. The negotiations are not yet producing the kind of major breakthroughs that typically signal an imminent agreement. Instead, the discussions appear to be inching forward slowly. Another critical detail from her report is the discipline both sides have shown in maintaining the media blackout. Even as proposals move back and forth, neither the league nor the players' representatives have allowed substantial information to leak out publicly. That level of secrecy is unusual. It could indicate a shared commitment to keeping negotiations professional and focused. But it could also signal something more concerning, that both sides are quietly preparing for the possibility that the talks may not reach a resolution before the looming deadline. If that's the case, maintaining silence might be a way to avoid triggering widespread panic among fans and players while the situation remains uncertain.
Going to get that copyrighted, bro, so we can't play all of that. But as you guys can see here, man, that's Caitlin Clark. She will be rocking the number 12. Now, the schedule, I believe, is, let me get it pulled up here. I believe it's on the 11th. Let me pull the schedule up for you guys. USA women's basketball calendar here. So this is what we're looking at here. What is this? That's baseball. My bad, y'all. Let me pull up basketball here. No, not the men's. Well, while I get that pulled up, man, let's listen to what Alexa.
To fully understand why the March 10th deadline carries so much weight, it's important to look at what's actually at stake if an agreement isn't reached in time. The immediate issue is the schedule. Without a finalized collective bargaining agreement, the WNBA cannot confidently proceed with many of the key steps required to launch a new season. Planning a professional sports schedule involves dozens of interconnected processes, all of which depend on a stable agreement between the league and its players. For example, training camps are expected to begin in late April. Those camps mark the official start of the competitive calendar, allowing teams to evaluate rosters, integrate new players, and prepare for the opening games of the season. But before training camps can happen, several other milestones must occur. Free agency decisions need to be finalized. The league's annual draft, currently scheduled for mid-April, must take place so teams can add incoming talent to their rosters. All of those steps become uncertain if the CBA negotiations remain unresolved. What makes the situation even more unusual is the context surrounding the previous season. The 2025 campaign was widely considered the most successful year in the history of the league. Television ratings increased significantly, attendance numbers climbed, and social media engagement surged. Much of that growth was fueled by the popularity of players like Caitlin Clark, whose presence brought unprecedented attention to the sport. Because of that success, the players now hold more leverage than ever before. They can point to the league's rising popularity as evidence that their contributions are driving the sport's momentum. And that reality adds another layer of complexity to the negotiations currently unfolding behind closed doors.